Never hear from them.
Hey everyone! Still owning the awkward in session 6. So welcome to session 6 of Real Talk is our last one, which is incredibly unfortunate, but know that we can continue these relationships, and I'll talk about how to continue that after we're done here. Keep in mind, Q&A is open. Again, if you have any troubles with Q&A, feel free to put in the LinkedIn group and I'll be sure to review that. We don't have anyone on the other end letting us know if you can hear us this time. Linda isn't joining us, so please post in the Q&A or on the LinkedIn group if you can't hear us or you can't see us or if you're having any technical difficulties at all. So we are going to be talking about evaluating and negotiating job offers today. I have my lovely colleague here. Oh, you can't see her hand. Lovely colleague here with me, Donnie. So I'm going to let Donnie introduce herself and then take it away, and I will be back in a little bit. So enjoy and avoid this.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Donnie Amtman, and I am a counselor here at the Career Center. I've been working here for about 8 or 9 years, and part of what I do in my job is teach a class on job and internship search strategies. And I've intentionally built in a full class period during that time to talk specifically about negotiating, evaluating and negotiating job offers. Partly that's because I think it's a fascinating topic. I really like learning about and practicing negotiations. And part of it is because I realize that this also comes with a lot of anxiety for a lot of people. Do I negotiate? Should I negotiate? How do I negotiate? And so given those two things, it's a subject that I'm super passionate about, and I like teaching about it and learning more as much as I can. So what I'd like to do is start off just with a scenario. So imagine this. You've gone through your job search process, you've found a position, you've submitted your tailored resume and cover letter, you've interviewed with the organization maybe once or several times, and you're hopefully now even more excited about the job than you were before, and you receive an offer, which is fantastic. It's often a highlight at the end of a job search process for many people. So the scenario can look several different ways. You may not be as excited about the job offer as you would have liked. Maybe it's not your ideal job. You may be in a position, maybe a fortunate position, where you're juggling 2 offers at the same time and you're not sure how to handle that. You may also be really excited about the job, but you have a vacation scheduled or would like to take some time off beforehand and you're not really sure how to juggle that. So it can look many different ways, but all of this has to do with evaluating and negotiating job offers, and that's what I'll be talking about more in depth with you today. So what I'd like to do is try this, as I'm new at this also, to come to a different screen here. All right, hopefully this is working. Okay, hold on a second here. Okay, hopefully you can see this. Evaluating a job offer is really about assessing fit, the fit between what you want and what's being offered. You've hopefully been assessing fit throughout your entire job search process, the self-exploration that you've been engaged in as you've been searching for your job, the in-depth research that you have done on the organization that you've decided to apply to, the questions that you've asked during the interview process. All of these steps have helped you assess fit in some degree along the way. Now it's time to do some critical thinking. You'll want to evaluate the job offers you have in front of you and think about how the offers stack up to what you want and need. I'm going to take some time.
I've seen your notes screen.
The note screen, this one. This one?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay, so how do I get rid of that?
If you go back to sharing.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry, everyone.
So here?
Yeah. And then go back to share. Did you do screen 1?
Yeah. And then, yeah, it just comes up.
All right. Well,
so what you're seeing is my next slide. So if you can keep your attention on the current slide, that would be great. Maybe Courtney will be able to figure that out. So now it's time for you to do some critical thinking. You'll want to evaluate that job offer, as I said, and how it stacks up with what you want and need. So what I'm going to do is take some time to go through 4 different areas which all pertain to assessing fit. They include specific aspects of the position, the organization, opportunities for career advancement, and pay. Since you're all in this job search class, my assumption is that you're probably not currently evaluating a job offer, but if you are, that is great. So my intention in going over these areas is also to give you some things to think about now that will help you assess different aspects of fit no matter where you are in this process. All right, so the position. Let's see, so will you work mostly as an individual or part of a team or both? And is this important for you? Are you somebody who does your best work alone? Is this position one which requires a lot of teamwork or the opposite? And how do you feel about that? What is your potential for career growth in this position? Is travel required? Is that something you'd like? Would that be a deal breaker for you if you were required to travel and you don't want to? What are the expectations for the numbers of hours worked? Is there flexibility around that? Really important to a lot of people is supervision. So what is the style of the person who will be supervising you? Are they very directive? Are they kind of micromanaging? How does that fit with what you know about yourself? Do you feel that you can learn from them? Also, how will you be evaluated and what degree of independence will you have? The organization, is the industry a good fit for you? Is what they are providing a service around or a product, is it something that matches your values? Are you really into food and nutrition and this organization matches that? Is that important to you? Is the organization financially stable? Some people like being in a startup and all the excitement and risk that goes along with that and potential rewards also. Other people are really clear that they want a very financially stable organization, that's pretty critical as far as their values go. How large is the organization? Does this fit for what you're looking for? Do you do better in a small environment, or would you like to be a piece of a bigger picture? What do you know about the organization's culture? Are they the type of organization where colleagues go to softball games or football games after work, or go out and get a beer or coffee together? Are they people who mostly just work 9 to 5 and don't have much mingling with each other afterwards? So will you feel comfortable there? What aspects of yourself do you want to bring to work, and does that fit the company culture? Does the organization have a good reputation? Is that important to you? So we're all different in what's important to us, and thinking about these things beforehand is how you can evaluate whether you have a good fit. Moving up, does this position fit your long-term career interests? Do you know what your long-term career interests are? Are there opportunities within the organization for cross-functional training? Do you maybe want to start out in marketing but know that you'd like to learn another aspect of the business like advertising or finance? Will they train you? Will they help with the breadth of your learning? Are there possibilities for mentorship from your supervisor or somebody else in the organization? Is this important to you? Do you have a role model, somebody who can give you some advice on how to work into a leadership position? How quickly can promotions occur for really great performance? And then is further training and education available and valued by the organization? Will they support you both financially and with time off to go ahead and develop professionally? Pay and benefits. Is the salary offered consistent with your budgeted needs? Do you know how much you need in order to support yourself? Have you calculated your monthly expenses? There are things called cost of living calculators. Payscale.com offers a really good one, but if you go into Google and just search on cost of living calculators, you can find out, okay, I'm in Eugene, I'm thinking of moving to San Francisco. How much do groceries cost there? What's the rent differential between Eugene and San Francisco? It's quite a bit, I'll tell you. knowing how much, do you have student loans, knowing how much that you need in order to support yourself and how much you'd ideally like in order to live a comfortable lifestyle will give you the base salary that you know that you'd need to earn in order to accept a job or a position. So that's really good information to know. How frequently will you be considered for a raise? Is this position paid on salary, so a set amount per year, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and that doesn't change? Is it based on commission, maybe a base salary? The commission is great for some people. They know if they work harder and put in the hours and have the initiative, they can really raise the ceiling of their salary. And other people, this doesn't fit well with at all. They know that they just want stability and income. How does the pay structure fit with your goals and your needs? What's the amount of sick and vacation time that's given? Will they give you the opportunity to take time off without pay? I know in some of my first few years after graduating from college, my entry-level jobs, I was given 2 weeks vacation, which was great because I'd never had paid vacation before that. But then I also knew that there were other things that I wanted to do with my time, and it became really important to me to have an employer that was willing to say, we'll give you time without pay, because to me at that point I was okay. I wanted the time. I didn't necessarily need more money, or I was able to do that. And then there's lifestyle. How do you feel about the location of this job? What about the climate? Is that important to you? Is there some part of the job negotiation where you may have to relocate in order to move your way up? And how do you feel about that? Can you afford the cost of living? Are there places available in the area that you want to live? This can be really important, especially if you're looking to move to a big city where the cost of living is quite a bit higher. Will you be near family and friends? Are there support networks in the area for different aspects of your identity? It says identify, but it's supposed to be identity. So do you have things that you like to engage in and support networks that are really important to you that you'll need to have in the area? So that can be a consideration for you too. What I'd like to do now is just give you 2 minutes to jot down what factors at this point seem most important to you. So if you are are not at the negotiation stage and are maybe heading into interviewing soon, wherever you are, what's important to you and how can you use those aspects and the knowledge of that to ask strategic questions during the interview process. So I'll just give you 2 minutes. I've put up a list here. Some people like to prioritize things, but just taking in the information that you've just learned about and just jot a few notes for yourself. All right, so let's move on. Evaluating a job offer is really the culmination of your job search process. If you enter into negotiating a job offer, it's assumed that the basic elements of the offer and the fit are there, but there may be some aspects that you'd like to negotiate to make sure this is a better fit for you. For most of us, the thought of negotiating money can be really awkward. Most people in our culture don't have much practice at it either, which makes it even more uncomfortable. Because of this, it can be something that you may find that you want to avoid. I found it really interesting. I read reference to one study that found that negotiating a raise of $5,000 for your first salary can result in more than $600,000 in additional lifetime earnings. It's really surprising to me. What I'd like to do is jump right into actually the money side of things. It's far from the only thing that you can negotiate, and I'll talk about other aspects later, but it's often the first thing that comes to mind when people think about negotiation. And as I was saying earlier, it can cause the most anxiety, and people usually have a lot of questions about that aspect. So there's the first thing is salary discussion versus salary negotiation. Sometimes during the interview process, sometimes very early in the interview process, you may be asked straight out, how much money do you currently make at your job? Or what salary do you expect? Don't let this take you off guard. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen, and you want to be prepared. So common advice around negotiation suggests that you treat salary questions like this in terms of a poker game, where the goal is really being to get the hiring manager or human resources rep to lay down their cards first. So you want to focus on getting them to share the salary range that they're thinking about or willing to pay first. So know that the way that companies and organizations operate is they have a really good idea of how much that they are able to pay for a certain position. Usually they have a range of money that they're willing to pay. So if you're coming in with a little bit less experience, they can justify paying you a little bit less. If you're an outstanding candidate who brings a lot of experience and skills, they usually have some wiggle room to offer you more. Now, kind of part of human nature is that most people, the employers usually want to pay a little bit less. The candidate almost always wants to make more. That's just what usually goes into this equation. So what you want to do is you want to, as I was saying earlier, have them reveal what they're willing or able to pay first. This is because once you share a specific salary number at any point, you may have just priced yourself too high or too low for a position. So what we suggest is doing your salary research first. So even before you go into the interviews, because you never know if they're just going to come out and ask you point blank, you want to know the salary range for similar jobs in the area that you're interviewing for. And so what I'd like to do right now is take you to just one salary calculator. Let me see if I can get this. Oh, I was there already. There we go. I'll take it right here. We'll take you to a site called salary.com. And so let's say you are applying for an entry-level marketing position. So this is just salary.com, and I type in marketing, and I'll put Portland. And you can put any city here, Portland, Oregon. And then I'll push the search. What this will do will take you to a screen, and I'm going to scroll immediately down to different job titles here. So there's marketing specialist, marketing coordinator, marketing communication director. It is great when the title of the job that you're applying to matches what's on here, and that doesn't always happen. So what I would suggest doing is searching on one of these. We'll click on marketing specialist just to get a sense. This will tell you here requirements and responsibilities for marketing specialists. So what you want to do is read through this paragraph and see how much of this matches the job description that you applied for. So it says here, responsible for designing, creating, delivering marketing programs, develop sales presentations. Say after you read that, it doesn't really sound like what you're thinking about. So come down here, similar jobs, start off with marketing assistant 1. And read through this, and let's just say you finally found, okay, this sounds more or less what I'm talking about, what I'm applying to. So then click this free salary data, skip the advertisement, and what it'll do is on this part up here, it will give you the national average for the marketing assistant 1 position. And these are all in a bell curve, and you can kind of see the majority or the range is 33 or so to 43. Now let's go ahead and put Portland in here because it definitely matters where it is that you're applying to. And then you'll say change. So we've got national average data for this, and now we've got this data for Portland. And now you can see it's at 39. Just for example, so we have an average for Portland at 39 or about 40,000 with the range of 34 to 45. Let's go to San Francisco. Look here, the average jumps from 39 up to 47, with the range being between 40 and 53. So this isn't a perfect science, but you can see how positions will earn different wages depending on area. And so let this be your friend. It's just one of such calculators. So coming back here, what you can do is you have this information. So, let's see here. Not sure, let's see, from current slide. So going to this next slide, here are some ways that you can answer that question. So you can say, based on my research, similar positions in Portland are currently paying between $40,000 and $55,000 a year. Is this also the range for which you've budgeted for this position? So you're addressing the situation, you're showing that you've done your research and you're educated on about how much can be expected to earn, and you're putting the question back on them. You can also say, my research shows similar positions pay in the range of X to Y. I'm sure you've budgeted a salary range based on competitive data for this industry. What's your range? Again, putting it back on them. You can also say, if I am the candidate you'd prefer for this position, I'm sure we'll be able to reach an agreement on the salary, as I'm willing to be flexible. Now, this is really important to say. Always following up with that you are flexible lets them know you have a good sense of what you'd like to earn and you're flexible, which can be, which I think is a good strategy. You can also try to deflect the question, especially if you're asked early on, by saying something like, I'd like to better understand the job responsibilities and requirements and how well we both believe I meet those before discussing the salary topic. And so you're letting them know, hey, my point here is to see, to show you what I have to offer you, you seeing how well I fit, and then let's talk about money after that. You can also discuss a salary range with an HR rep during an initial screening interview. So some organizations have your initial phone screening interview with an HR representative. And that's really, as I was saying, just a screening interview. And it's completely appropriate at that point to just say, ask, what is the salary range for this position? And it can also make the salary discussions with the hiring manager, if and when you make it to that point, a lot less stressful. All right, so if you want more money, know that there are only two valid reasons for this. The current market rate for the position is higher than what you've been offered, and you find that out through salary.com, doing your research. There's also payscale.com. There are several different websites, which I'd recommend you checking several resources to see where the similarities and discrepancies lie. And then there's also that you have really unique skill set or attributes and or experience that will enhance your contribution to the organization and which really warrants a higher pay. These are more the exception. This might be a fluency in a language skill or really, really high technical skills that you've shown that the organization can benefit from that maybe aren't core to the job that they're looking for, but you've shown that you can offer something really above and beyond. Know that your perception of your worth may also be different than the prospective employer's perception. So I'm thinking about just a newly graduated person such as yourself, thinking, I'm not really sure, but I have this degree and I think I should be earning $60,000, $70,000 right out the gate because I am college educated. Now that may be true if you've done your research and the job that you're applying for matches that, but if it's just kind of a shot in the dark, you may have an inflated sense of your worth. And so just know that it's really where your sense and research and what they think, the value that you'll bring to them. All right. So what are things that you can negotiate? There are many, many aspects of a job offer which can be negotiated. Everything from gym memberships to salary to company cars to paid parking spaces in big cities. And I've just shown a few here, but these are the more common ones. So salary, we've talked a little bit about that already. Some companies or organizations can negotiate salaries and some just can't. So it's usually better to accept, well, let me back up here. So talking a little bit more about that, there are some ways that you can research through your through some mentor relations you have, through networking. Do you know anybody at the company or organization that you can talk about whether salaries are negotiable is really good to think about. Know that some like government agencies, they have set pay schedules, set rates of raises, and there really isn't any wiggle room there. One of the people that partner with us that works for Enterprise had said, we hire all of our entry-level employees at a certain salary, and we don't veer from there. We have, after you prove yourself, we can then talk about salary negotiations. So the salary, it's really an art to this. It's, you know, if you're applying for an organization, a for-profit organization, oftentimes big companies or corporations expect that salary will be negotiated. So if you have questions about your particular situation, feel free to reach out to us. I'm happy to talk to you about that. Know that if salary negotiations, you've either been told straight out that they don't negotiate, or you've tried to negotiate a little bit and just aren't getting very far with that there are other things that you can negotiate, such as a potential sign-on bonus. Know that it's always better to go for a higher salary. So let's say if you're given the choice of a $50,000 a year salary, or $45,000 with a $5K signing bonus, you've gotten more money up front, but the salary that you have over time will add up pretty quickly. So sign-on bonus may be a way to get a little more initial money if you're not able to negotiate salary. There's also moving costs or relocation. Some companies have separate budget lines that help employees with moving expenses, such as moving vans, hotel stays during the transition, someone that comes and packs up your house. I have some friends who work in the healthcare industry, and that's pretty standard. They move them across the country, pay for the first month's rent, they have a stipend for housing. When I interviewed here at the Career Center 8 or 9 years ago, I was told pretty clearly that the salary was set, but I did ask about moving expenses and got some reimbursement in that way. So those can help out. There's also a question on LinkedIn about start date. You can absolutely negotiate start date. So if you know that you want a little bit of time between jobs, or you have a family vacation coming up or something already planned, definitely negotiate a start date. Vacation time, stock options, working remotely, flexibility in your schedule, even pets at work. I mean, there's a list of probably, you know, hundreds of things that you could take into account in the negotiation part. These are just some of them. Educational opportunities, professional development money to go ahead and further develop your skills. So those are what are negotiable. Let's talk now about strategy. So you now know what you need to support yourself, how much your skills and experience are worth, and what's important to you, and you've decided that you'd like to negotiate. So first off, know that your strongest negotiation position is always after you've been offered a job and before you've officially accepted it. So this is kind of the sweet spot in negotiating. You've demonstrated your worth to the employer through the interview process, and they've told you through extending an offer that they want you. So the first thing to do is to get in the right mindset. Excuse me. If you've not negotiated before, it's possible that you have some preconceived notions about what negotiating is, and it might feel sort of awkward, that negotiations might be adversarial. So whatever you have going on, remember that you can change your mindset and try to view the negotiation as a discussion and a partnership. They want you, you want them, pending you can kind of come to some middle ground. Be friendly yet assertive. You're taking control of your financial future here. And so realize that, you know, when appropriate, you can actually make some great strides, as I was talking about earlier, as far as upping your worth. If you've gotten an offer, the organization has already invested a lot of time and energy into you, and they're showing you that you're their top candidate. So while it may feel that they're holding the cards, know that you have a lot to offer too. You have skills, you have your experience, you have your motivation, and your willingness to work hard and contribute all you've got to their organization. So this mindset is important to go in knowing that you're an asset. So we've talked about before, know what you're worth and what you need. You've done your salary research, you're based in facts. Instead of saying, I feel like I should get more money, you can come to the table by saying, I believe I'm worth this and this is why. Then we also recommend that you only negotiate on a few items. Numbers or salary are only one side of the equation. Well, I said before, some organizations have standardized salaries, which they can't stray from. Know what's critical for you in your decision making. Is it critical that you get more money? Is that a deal breaker for you? What's critical and what's extra? What are the nice to haves? If you go into a negotiation wanting a raise in the salary, you want to have all your moving expenses paid, you want to have more vacation days, and oh, hey, can you throw in a bonus on top of that? You're likely to turn them off. So really be strategic in what you want and need and pick a few things to negotiate. Start with the things that are more important, feel your way through what other things that you might be able to work with. So the goal here is really to create, that situation where you feel like you win and they feel like they win too. Begin by making sure always that you convey your appreciation and excitement over the position, the organization, and the offer, as well as reiterating how well your skills match the qualifications. Again, this is all about fit. So there are many ways that you can do this, and because I'm somebody who really learns well by knowing how things are worded, I've put some approaches to this up here. You can say, I'm excited to receive the job offer, and I'm really excited for this position. I feel confident my communication and technical skills, or whatever skills you're selling here, will allow me to make a positive contribution to the organization. Again, that's a typo there, so it should be positive contribution. You can also say, I'd really like to accept the offer and get to work, and would like your help in addressing a few things which will help make this job a better fit for me. You can also just come straight out and say, I just want to know, are there any aspects of this package that are negotiable? Straightforward question like that, get a straightforward answer. You can also say, I'm really glad to have received the offer, and given my interest in this position, it would be helpful for me to know and understand the factors that you took into account making this offer. So you're kind of feeling them out that way. You can also say, after doing research on the cost of living in San Francisco, I found that the total compensation of the offer will not allow me to secure an apartment and live in the surrounding areas. Is there anything else you can do in terms of the offer? Now know that you being able to support yourself is not really their problem. The rent in San Francisco isn't their problem. But if this is something that is really going to prohibit you from moving there, and it's kind of where the rubber hits the road, as they say, you can definitely ask that. You can also say, based on my current situation, I'd like to negotiate my start date, or fill in another aspect of the benefits package. Do you have room to negotiate around these points? So these are just some starting wording. I find them very helpful myself. As long as you follow that, reiterate your interest, let them know that you want to work with them, stick to the basic points of what it is, that you need. And that's kind of how this is done. Just the last page. So know that it's okay to ask for time to consider the offer. This is especially important if you're juggling two offers at once. Being open and straightforward with each employer tends to be a really good strategy here. So saying something like, I've received another offer from a different organization. I'd like a few days to think your offer over. When would be an acceptable date to give you an answer? Or you can be more directive and tell them a day that you'd like to get back to them by and see if this will work for them. It lets them know, you're showing that you're being honest, you're showing that you're being straightforward, you're being open, which is usually desirable. And it gives them a chance to say, oh, wow, they really want you as a candidate. They might offer some more things at this point. That's not the intent of saying this. Really, the intent is to see how much time you can have to consider both offers. But usually being upfront and direct about this tends to be better. Hopefully it goes without saying, but don't lie at this point. Don't say you have another offer that you're considering if you don't. It's okay to say, I'm really excited about this offer. I'd really like a few days to just think about it, to do my research, to talk to some people, reiterate your interest, your enthusiasm, and they'll let you know if they need to know by tomorrow or not. Most companies and organizations will be able to allow you some time, and if they don't have wiggle room around time. I think it's fair to ask what considerations they need and why. If you enter a negotiation, know that it's assumed that you'll make a decision. So usually people don't enter into negotiation if they're just playing around. So really enter into it if you're wanting to make this work out. We also recommend stopping interviewing with other companies once you've accepted an offer. Now I know that sometimes other offers come up, that timing can be, something irresistible can come up and you might get into an awkward situation. That does happen, but it's just generally good guidelines that once you've accepted something, you're done and don't continue to look. If you find yourself in a situation where you've accepted something better comes up, you've been honest along the way, give us a call. We're happy to talk through it with you. These things do happen. Know when to stop negotiating. Pay attention to how the employer's responding to you, the things you're saying, their body language, other pauses, or a lot of this can be body language and just feel of the conversation. So be tuned into cues that they may be giving off, that you're maybe pushing things too far. And if you sort of feel like you may be also, that's good information. And last but not least, I just want to let you know that an offer isn't official until it's been given in writing and has been signed by both parties. So it doesn't happen often, but just getting a verbal, from you or from them isn't a contract that is legally binding. So especially before you consider moving somewhere, especially on your own expense, you need to have this offer in writing, signed by them, signed by you, and then it should be a legally binding document. All right, so that is the end of the formal part of my presentation. I'm definitely open to, would like to open it up to question and answer. And I think I'll see, okay, I've got a question up here from Beth. How do you approach something like this in the job announcement? To apply, submit a current resume, cover letter of interest with salary requirements, and a list of references. This is a great question. So if this is, from my understanding, and Courtney's here with me, please chime in if you know differently. If they're asking this in the job announcement, you will need to supply something. So if you don't address this, that might be immediately, in their eyes, disqualifying you from even considering you more. If it were me, I would probably type up a statement similar to what I had said before, which was based on research in Portland and this type of position, I understand that the range to be within X and Y, and I'm flexible and look forward to having a salary discussion with you later. So always give a range, but if they ask you straightforward from there, I would just hit it straight on.
Great question, Beth. So at this time, if you all have any questions on negotiating, anything that Donnie covered, or anything in your job search at this time, feel free to submit those in the Q&A. And I know, again, the Q&A is not working for some people, so I've got the, oops, and now I'm going to show it to all of you. We can pull up the LinkedIn group to see if any questions are going on here too. Keep that in mind. So what I think Donnie and I will do is we're going to just start to address some of these questions that you all have put as far as things you're still wondering about in your job search. And so we'll just start to kind of tackle these, and then feel free, again, add more in the Q&A or add anything to the LinkedIn group, and we'll get to those as well. One question that was asked by someone is if what you all are posting in this group is private, and I have set all of the settings to private, so your connection should not be seeing what you've posted in this group. Please let me know otherwise. If you found, you have a connection that told you that they can see what's going on in Real Talk, please let me know. But I have set it up in a way that it is supposed to be private. All right, so Lainey asked something about if a employer has a poor online application process, is it okay to walk into the organization and express my interest in working with them? Donnie, do you have thoughts on if that's an okay?
Yeah, I usually let the job posting and any sort of instructions that the employers have on there, that's sort of the holy grail in my book. So if they say, do not contact us, I wouldn't do that. if it's an easily accessible organization and they haven't given you any language that mirrors that, if it were me, I might walk in and also just handle it tactfully, saying, I have my application materials for this position. Would it be okay to hand them in person and see how they respond to you?
I think that's a great answer. So Emma, and I think several of you asked about the idea of like continuing to make connections and how, continuing that networking discussion. So if I'm reading correctly, there's not a specific question here that Emma asked, but feel free, anything. I know networking is kind of a hot topic with you all and in general in job searching. So if you think of any specific networking questions, go ahead and, again, the group or on Q&A, we can definitely get to those. Let's see what else. Andrew asked about search tips for combing LinkedIn and narrowing search opportunities. Andrew, I'm not positive if you mean job opportunities or finding connections through LinkedIn. If you're referring to connections, I would start with kind of the groups that you already touch in some way. And by that, I mean things like alumni, professors or faculty on campus, staff on campus, any professional associations that would be a part of your, Andrew, I'm forgetting what exactly you're majoring in right now, perhaps GIS. Professional associations that are attributed to your field would be a great place to start looking for connections. Do you understand if that's jobs or connections? Okay. Can you?
Not on that. I was going to respond to the next one.
Okay, so Andrew, if you want to clarify again, please let us know. We can talk about that more. But all right, so Michael.
Well, actually, Andrew. Your second one was that you emailed a professional last Friday and have yet to receive a response. I don't know if that's is that a question?
So that would be the professional that we connected them with.
I see.
Yeah.
What that actually had me think about was a question that I get asked fairly regularly, which is, when should you follow up if you've submitted materials? So this may be not what Andrew's referring to, but if you're in a situation where you've applied to something, usually a good rule, again, unless somebody says don't contact us, is to wait a week or maybe a week or two after applying for something or submitting your materials, and a phone call could be appropriate. And usually what I recommend saying is, I've submitted my materials for this position, and I just wanted to make sure that you received them. And that kind of open-ended question may receive a response that, yes, we'll contact people in a few weeks, or no, I haven't received it, or please don't call us. So whatever your response is, usually within a week or two is an okay time frame.
I'm just gonna stop sharing. I realize the LinkedIn group maybe isn't that exciting for you all to look at. So Michael had asked something in the group about references and how to keep them current. Said something about kind of feeling awkward contacting people that could potentially be references for me, as there's generally no natural connection maintained. Just want to make sure I get your full question here, Michael. Okay, so let's start with references. So for me, those are people that I do intentionally try to keep a relationship with. So if you have a past supervisor that down the line you might ask for a reference, I recommend checking in with them every once in a while, even if it's a couple times a year, just saying, here's what I'm doing now, or giving them a heads up. You always want to ask your references before you deem them references. So make sure you give them a heads up. Even go to the lengths of supplying information about the job and what qualifications you want them to highlight. References greatly appreciate that type of detail. So for me, I would make that intentional relationship and reach out to them at least a couple times a year so that they stay current. The last thing you want is for them to call and your reference and they say, well, I don't know, I haven't talked to them in 5 years, but I think it was great. So Donnie, any thoughts about keeping references current?
Just second what you said.
Okay. Michael, you also asked about spending more time networking than applying to job. What is the best way to manage those connections? So I think actually one of the greatest things about LinkedIn is that it can be that tool to manage connections about who you meet with. It's a really good way to follow up after you go to a networking event or someone, you can kind of connect with them afterwards and say, hey, it was great meeting you at so-and-so or this thing, and keep your connections that way. So it's kind of a good, the new version of a Rolodex, if you will. I hope some of you know what a Rolodex is. I think that's what I'm getting from here is just like, how do I manage that I know everyone type of thing, or keeping up with those connections. And for me, LinkedIn's the best way to do that. Sean, any other thoughts? Okay. Should I try to keep them active or just use them once in a while and let them fade away? I would say if these are people that you really truly are going to be connections in your field, keep them active. And you don't want to be obnoxious, of course, so you don't need to be emailing them or messaging them every day, but definitely, again, keeping up with them a couple times a year. I think that's good. All right, Felicia had asked, I connected with someone from a company I would like to work with, and after talking a few times, they want to be a reference for me. Is there a job, if there's a job available on the company's website? I haven't found a job that fits my qualifications. What should I do? So this is someone that you've met at a company that you want to work for, and they said they would be a reference from you, is what I'm understanding. Yeah. Dawn, you want to take that one?
I would just say, if there's not a job available on the website, kind of do what Courtney was saying and just keep in touch with them. And when one does come available, hop on it. And it may be 6 months, it could be a year, but showing your initiative in that way and your perseverance can be really good. I would also add, something I learned recently about staying in touch with people is also to think about what are some things that you're running across articles or bits of information that might be helpful to your contact also. So there's one thing of how do I stay in touch with them, popping in, saying, hi, how are you doing is great. But if you can also say, I was reading this article and it had to do with something that we were talking about or something that I'm passionate about right now, maybe a tip for them, embed a link, attach the article that can also show that it's a give and take. So it's not just what can I get from you, but what can I also give for you? So that's a way to keep it a little bit richer too.
And I would imagine, Felicia, you've probably already been pretty clear with them about what you're hoping to do, but if you haven't, always let them know as well. Like, these are the types of things I'm looking for. Here's what I'm really great at. I'm sure that's already happened through your connection, but if it hasn't, that would be something I would recommend. All right, sorry that you all have to see just the sides of our faces for a lot of this, but Beth asked, let's see, each company often calls the jobs I'm looking for many different titles. I feel like I'm spending a lot of time looking through their resources without coming up with good options. Are there other search techniques I can use or other ways connecting to employers of interest to ask if the skills I have match any openings or future options? Okay, I'm just gonna try to make sure I get this correct here. So, I feel like I'm spending a long time. So is the, Beth, if you're listening, is the problem that you are not sure what job titles to look for, or if you find job titles, you're not sure if those align with what you're looking for, skills or qualities that you have? If you can clarify for that, that would be great.
I'm a little confused on that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Beth, we'll get back to you if you hear this and respond. Getting a lot of similar comments around networking is the most helpful. So again, any specific questions you have around networking or resources that you're looking for, feel free to let us know. Adam, you asked a question about figuring out different types of jobs in your field, which I think is an excellent question. It's actually something that I think we spend a lot of time helping students and recent graduates to do, is just finding out what positions exist in your field. So I'm wondering if we might actually want to jump over and show you a few resources that can be helpful for this type of thing.
Guess what I'm asking is, where can I find a list of all the possibilities that GIS field has to offer? Is there such a thing? It's an interesting question.
I was thinking, I'm just gonna kind of share here, but we have a couple of resources that might be helpful for you. First one I was thinking about, and Donnie, let me know if you have some too.
Oh, that probably doesn't sound too good.
Hopefully you didn't get a loud screech or anything at that moment. So this actually sounds like a very silly website, but it is incredibly helpful. Oh, that's not the one that I want. So it's called whatcanidowiththismajor.com. And for some reason it's not going to oh, there we go. So this isn't tied to the U of O, so keep that in mind. But what this can do, and I think GIS might even be an option, at least geography, yeah. Okay, so if you go to, for example, geography, what this site will do is it will list types of kind of jobs. They won't give you exact titles at this stage, but types of jobs, what types of employers hire those people or those types of jobs, and then strategies to get those. So they'll break it up into several categories. For geography, they've broken it up into physical geography, and they list a bunch of those, emergency management, for example. And then environmental geography, here's some types of roles that might be involved in that. Cultural and human geography, etc. So you can do this with several different majors that you can kind of play around. This is one way to get some ideas of positions and kind of functional areas that exist in your field. You can also, I apologize for the scrolling here. At the bottom of this is something called the you can get to this either way, but you can get through this through here, the Occupational Outlook Information Handbook. Let me just click on one of those. So they will give you a job title there. Let me just go back and show you that. So they'll give you a couple different job titles here that you can look at. Atmospheric scientist, geoscientist, etc.
Yeah, but I want to come back here and point out something else when you're done.
Okay, so this, if you can go to the Occupational Outlook Handbook, this will give you a lot more information on what this role actually does, what they get paid, how to become one, etc. You can see these different headers here on the top. If I remember correctly, well, we can go to ONET after this, but once you start finding some of those job titles, this is a really good place to come and get some more details on that.
And then I also want to point out too that under professional associations, so there's an association for GIS professionals. I've never been here, but oftentimes professional associations will talk about different careers. So under resources, they might have careers as part for students. Professional associations oftentimes offer them to become a member for students and recent graduates, a discounted rate. But just to see what you can see on professional association websites, but hooking up with people who are doing work that you want to do. So in this case, GIS, there could be a lot of resources in here that you haven't thought about as far as under careers too. You can go in here on your own, but so job postings, GIS professional certifications, so that type of thing. Could be at least a step in the process.
Yeah, professional associations are an awesome resource as far as a lot of times they'll, companies, because they know you're interested in that field, will actually post their jobs with those professional associations because they already know they have a interested group of people.
And not to state the very obvious, but I will because sometimes it doesn't occur to some people, is just going into Google and typing in GIS careers or what can I do with GIS skills, and you'll likely pull up a bunch of different resources that may have just that list you're looking for.
I was also thinking about trying to own it. Beth, by the way, I like your comment. Beth commented, yes, this answers my question. What can I do with this major? Or my major. So that's awesome. Another place that you can go is called ONET. And there's a couple different ways that you can navigate this site. So I'll try not to confuse you. You can just type in a job title. And for example, you might type in marketing specialist if that's something you found often. And not only will it kind of give you this already kind of related positions, but once you go into one, let's say we pick marketing manager, they will, again, apologize for the scrolling. There's lots of good information on this site, but they will give you a related occupations. And so then you can get lost for days kind of linking in these things, going back and forth. This is another way. You can also search ONET by looking at interests, which is pretty cool. Is that advanced search? Oh, right here. Okay, so if you go on the advanced search and then interests, Now, you all can read through these, and if you haven't ever heard of the Strong Interest Inventory, which these are based off of, we can always do that assessment with you at the Career Center, but you can also just read these and see what sounds most like you. So, for example, if you are really helping people is something that's really important to you in your career, that would be categorized as social, and you can click on this, and it will give you all sorts of job titles based on the idea of helping people. So this is another place to look as well. If you kind of just have an idea, an overarching, I want to be creative in my work, or I want to help others, or I like organization, something like that. You can get a long list of job titles here too. Looks like Adam said, thanks, that was helpful. Yeah, it's hard to figure out where mental health therapy and GIS overlap. I can only imagine. Donnie and I might get paid a lot more if we figure out that as well. So, okay, I'm just going to jump back over to our, where were we? LinkedIn group. Okay, and we have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to just see really quickly. It looks like that was the majority of specific questions, so I'll just wrap it up a little bit here. As you all know, this is our last session for the virtual job search group. Something that I think is completely awesome about talking about evaluating and negotiating job offers, even if you're not in that stage right now, it's something to continue thinking about as you look at job postings. You're evaluating from the very beginning, as I'm sure Donnie mentioned. So it's good things to have in the back of your mind, even at the beginning of your search process, which I know many of you are still in that beginning stages. We have so enjoyed doing this. It's been one of my favorite parts of my summer, so thanks for that. If you feel free, please keep in touch. Connect on LinkedIn, we can email. I will keep this group active for at least a while longer, so feel free to keep posting in there. Remember that we have resources in there, and I believe Johnny had a couple resources that she's going to be adding after today. Yep. Into the Google folder, so keep going back there. You should have access to that forever. So we've loved this. It's been great. It's been great getting to know you. I hope you all have connected in some way. But keep in touch. We do not have to end here. So any questions or thoughts, reach out to us.
And thank you for allowing me to join on the last bit here. It was wonderful to be part of this. And I'll just say for my part, which I'm sure all of the facilitators here would agree, or I hope, is that if you have questions, particularly about evaluating or negotiating job offers, especially specific questions that may come up, as I hope that you head towards some job offers yourself, please feel free to post them on LinkedIn and we'll reply.
Perfect. I know several of you have had interviews lately or have them today, so good luck, and we hope they go awesome. And then again, talk to Donnie about evaluating and negotiating that job offer that I'm sure you'll get.
All right.
Have a great summer. Bye.
Bye.